or may have missed, whatever. All right, let's go. We're just gonna skip to the pick bands. Okay. So Cloud9 on blue. And again, I don't know what patch this is. I'm assuming that it's 6.1. Let me see that at Tom Kench. Lulu Elias Poppy. Okay. One band doesn't really fit the others. Although I haven't I see, this is weird because some of the picks and bans, when something doesn't fit the others, it makes me think that there's just something I'm missing, and because I don't follow all the games enough, I can't tell if something's a target ban. Although in some cases I can, but Lulu is a very bizarre target. I know Haunter doesn't like Lulu. Not that he couldn't play it or he won't play it, but... Alright, so Corki first pick, Respond, Lissandra, Rek'Sai. It's okay. Lissandra can be flexed. Tom Kench, there it is. So they didn't give credit to for Haunter to play Tom Kench, and I think that's a mistake because Haunter already showed that he can play Tom Kench. Very standard, straightforward comp coming out of TSM, so that's okay. I like the fact that they hid the fact of if Corki's going to be ADC or if he's going to be mid. So that's really nice because now they got to see. So it's important to notice that now technically they could keep Corki as ADC or they could put him mid because TSM already showed Lucian Janna. The picks and bans I like so far out of both teams, except I don't like the Lissandra when Tom Kench was open because I think he's God mode, so... Okay. Cloud9's comp is good. This is very good. Red side, Lissandra has a little bit more utility if she gets shoved in, although she's extremely vulnerable to the Nidalee pressure. So the Rek'Sai definitely does help out on. And it's red side Rek'Sai though, so that's actually pretty good. Red side Rek'Sai. It's definitely going to be stronger. So if the colors were reversed, it affects the top lane matchup really heavy. We have a standard Corki versus Victor again, which we just saw in the game before. Now we're going to see the differences. I think this is beautiful. Wow, that's amazing. So let's talk about something. Let's pause for a quick second. So now, first off, let's talk about one thing. Okay, so now again, the Corki Victor stuff. I said it in the last VOD review. Except it's going to be a little bit different this time in that Victor's going to get the power spike before he needs the power spike on his blue, and then Corki is going to end up getting the blue when Corki needs the blue in the matchup. So there's going to be a little bit of a sway in terms of Victor shouldn't have as much dominance as she was able to have in the previous game that we just reviewed, which was the Renegades versus Immortals game. With that being said, Lissandra can't really go offensive into Tom Kench because if Lissandra goes into an extended lane, she's extremely vulnerable and it's very bad EV. However, even though she can't go into an extended lane, she does benefit from being red side Lissandra because she has a lot more maneuverability and a lot more utility underneath her tower and around, you know, the very front of her lane and the very middle of her lane. And what I mean by the front of the lane and the middle of the lane is obviously just, let me hope that this is drawing. It's not drawing. My Epic Pen is not working. Okay, I mean this and this. Okay, these two lines. With that being said, Cloud9 opts for a lane swap, which I think is fine. Although Tom Kench, I don't know how they're gonna play out his level 1. But Tom Kench can be a little bit rough, although this is 6.1 supposedly. Or I think it's 6.1. I don't see any patch note thing that would tell me otherwise. But Tahm Kench can be a little bit rough. Okay. So they know that it's a lane swap. Okay. I don't know what he's doing. What? See, this is... Now, we've seen this twice now. It's like people don't understand that you can't just do a blind lane swap like this if you're going to be on this type of a champion. Now, if you're on a champion that could still farm from long range, or you had some sort of utility from being able to go up and, you know, maybe poke the opponent or something, like way back in the day, that's fine. Now they give the blue buff over to Lissandra, and they're going to blitz down the lane. And now Tahm Kench arrives. So this is the same exact thing that we saw happen last game. It doesn't make any sense, and I don't know what the argument for it is, but it just seems bad. It doesn't make any sense to do this. You can easily just double jungle, and if the argument is that you want Nidalee to hit level 4 or level 3 at a certain time, and you don't want to give any XP to Tahm Kench, well, that doesn't really matter because he wasn't getting any XP anyway. Unless there's something I'm missing. I just need to go and see if there's something that I'm missing. He gets a certain amount of XP, and then he goes away. Okay, well, I guess that could change something. I don't know if it's worth it. Also, Tahm Kench, okay, so Nidalee, wait a minute. Ooh. Did Nidalee do Wraiths? Nidalee does do Wraiths, but it's not until Tahm is on his way back up. And does Nidalee hit 4 off of Wraiths? Because if she would hit 4 off of Wraiths, she does not hit 4 off Wraiths, but I don't know what her XP bar is. So stuff like this really matters in pro play, but if she doesn't need Wraiths to hit 4, or if Red could have done it for her, then Tahm Kench can just eat Wraiths, and I think that would be fine, because Tahm Kench can clear Wraiths with only taking like 100 HP if he opens W. So, alright, let's go forward again. So I don't know what that whole thing is. So now they do the line swap, and now TSM has the line swap, or they're matching it by sending Lucian to top. John is going for the deep wards for the control. I think this is wise, but it's too late because Rush is already inside of the jungle, so that's a little bit unfortunate. But the intention was good, and it just happens to be, you know, that Rush was already in the jungle and Yellow Star had missed it. But had she been able to get that off, then this would have been completely safe, and then I actually think what you can end up doing is you can just leave Lucian in top lane, and then you can send Janna to support Lissandra, or you can have Janna be in mid lane. Svenskaren being over here is, I think, unnecessary. Janna shouldn't be in top. There's no reason to send Svenskaren over to the left-hand side and then have Janna be in top unless you anticipate that they're just going to send Tahm Kench up. But that is extremely unlikely, and even if they send Tahm Kench up, I don't actually think that you have the ability to execute him underneath tower. Mostly because John is not running Ignite, she's running Exhaust, and that's not going to do anything against him, and he was already level 3. So now you reinitiate line swap, and Lissandra goes up to top lane, and I can't see those minions. I think that Blue's wave is slow pushing, so Lissandra should not do this. Lissandra should not... No, Haunser, you shouldn't kill that. No. God damn it. Yellow Star's deep wards here are really good because they know that Tahm Kench can't actually do anything against Lucian, not at this point in time given his items. And he's optimizing into an MR state, which I don't really like, but whatever. Okay. It's a little bit weird that Victor's losing in CS. I don't think that he should be losing in CS. A lot of these rotations are a little bit bizarre. They should just go 1-4 now, TSM. A reason that they should just go 1-4 now, because Braum is out of position and Balls is too far behind. And by going into a 1-4, they would inadvertently also gain control over Dragon and simultaneously apply pressure to top lane, and Cloud9 can't adequately respond to that. But they don't go for a 1-4, instead they do random, bizarre recalls. and they give the blue over to Victor. This is fine. Now Victor does have a power spike that is a little bit peculiar in the sense that he has a second augment. So with the blue buff, he has a lot more strength now than if he would just have the first augment. So now when you chunk Braum out like that, and you chunk out Tahm Kench, that should just be dragon timing, especially because you have initiative in mid lane with the blue buff on Victor, so Corki can't actually keep up anymore without overextending in terms of mana costs. And if he overextends in terms of mana costs, he can't actually do anything against pushing the lane and playing it like he would be against a TF. But it looks like Bjergsen just messed up a laser again. It doesn't make any sense to be down here trying to do this stuff because this is just a coin flip. You rotated Victor down. I would have liked to instead have seen just to rotate into mid because Corki again can't keep up with the mana cost and they were already chunked out. Rush can't do anything if they're that pushed under, and top lane was in favor of TSM. So there's huge macro errors coming out of TSM already. Blue buff is now worn out. So the timing attack is gone. There's no longer a timing attack, and they also had a timing attack in the sense that they could have forced Corki to recall twice, and if Corki has to recall twice, when he's looking for Trinity Force and he doesn't have the gold for it, it becomes very inefficient to wake up for the next major team fight. Team fights like that benefit TSM much more than they benefit Cloud9, because Cloud9 is at the disadvantage in the sense that they are reliant on mana, and it's too early. Now, I have no idea why Sneaky was pushed up this far, and now they're going to use the teleport out of Tahm Kench to deflect the attempt to kill. With Rek'Sai right there, though, I don't know if the teleport was wise, although maybe, wait, hold on, did they not have any vision on Nidalee? Is that maybe why? You have Lissandra right there. Where's Nidalee? Ah, okay. Okay, alright, nope, that's fine. Okay, the call is fine, The cancel on the teleport is also correct, yes. Okay. No, Lissandra, don't do it. Don't give it back. Just lock it. Lock it. Haunter, lock it. If they lock, and then they do a 0-4-1, it is so good for their dragon. Because dragon's coming up in 2 minutes. They want to do a 0-4-1, so that way they can have the top tower into them. Cloud9 wants Haunter to shove it back into them, and then ideally they would lock in bottom before the dragon, and then they could do a 1-4-0, and then ultimately rotate the person down so that it becomes a 0-5-0, and then they all just fight for control over dragon, and they let top lane and bot lane shove back into them while they secure dragon. And then TSM is basically without anything to do. It's very bizarre, because a lot of these choices are made on the onus of TSM responding poorly. It doesn't make the choices correct. Okay. Now at this point they rotate up for a 5-0. They shouldn't do this. Tristana doesn't have her power spike yet. Just recall, send Lissandra top, and rotate 4 people mid, shove it down, and basically eye for an eye. Except the eye for an eye benefits TSM way more. TSM rotating up and Cloud9's decision to go up is basically them suffocating themselves. They put themselves vulnerable to checkmate, but they didn't go for it. It's basically like they made a move. So basically this is what Cloud9 just did. Is so they have a pawn, and a pawn, and then they have their king. Okay, you guys can't see this, I guess. Hold on, let me use yellow. So they have a pawn, and then they have their king. This is Cloud9. And what they tried to do is they used their queen to, you know, threaten a check on, like, TSM's king or something, okay? But TSM didn't realize that they have a pawn, and their pawn is already open. So their king can't get backdoor mated But Cloud9 left themselves susceptible to a backdoor mate if, TSM had realized it, but TSM didn't realize it. So their move to put TSM into a check position doesn't make any sense because the check doesn't actually benefit them. But TSM had backdoor mate on Cloud9, and they didn't see it. It would have been backdoor mate in the sense that as soon as Cloud9 chooses to rotate 4 people up into top lane, it's ultimately a bad choice because most of their champions need recall phases right now. So when they rotate the 4 people up, they can easily sacrifice this tower, send Lissandra back. If Cloud9 chooses to keep multiple people in top lane, then you can also just send 1 more person back, and it's very easy to hold that 3rd tower because, again, the point in the game right now, it's not like they have enough potency with shoving down the towers. If you keep 4 people in TSM's mid and then you just ultimately have 3 people, and make sure that Victor is one of the people that you keep into mid so that no one can actually match against his pushing potential, then you can blitz down, ward, walk back up, recall, dragon, and you show up with ultimately 2 times more wards than Cloud9 can show up with for dragon, especially because they don't have any commitments to sweepers yet, so the vision control would be way too poor, and then what ends up happening is Cloud9 now has to fight over positions that are unfavorable to them while having given you basically a bank in top lane that it is TSM's discretion when the lane becomes reused again, because this entire lane is useless to TSM. It has nothing to do with their win condition or how they're going to win. The only time that anything on the top left side of the map is going to have any potency or worth to TSM is when they're fighting over this sort of vision for Baron, but that has actually nothing to do with the lane itself. And when Cloud9 benefits from this lane the most, and then they do benefit from top lane, which is why giving it up this early and killing it doesn't make any sense. So that's all. But they just had checkmate and they didn't do it. I don't think that there's anything I was missing there. I will just look at it one more time because there's a chance. I at least acknowledge that there's a chance I'm missing something. Does Lucian have calling? He just used calling. When did he use it? Don't tell me he used it during that. That's a bad calling. If he doesn't use that, then you bring Lissandra to mid and you keep Lucian in top and you have him hold culling and then nothing goes any further than that. If they do choose to keep pushing on like they did, then you just rotate up Janna and Janna has Monsoon. So it's way too good. The teleport timer wouldn't be up for the siege, but that doesn't matter because the blitz on the front would be too powerful. And then it's too easy for Rek'Sai to get up there. Although, was Rek'Sai on cooldown for ulti? I can't tell. I don't know when Rek'Sai... Okay, yeah. So for the most part, I think it's fine. I think that it's very thin on if Cloud9 can orchestrate something. It would come down to a mechanical choice. But again, that's still playing on the assumption that TSM is going to make mistakes. I just don't think at that point in time they would have had any ability to do anything in top lane. Now, had they somehow included the Herald into what they had just done prior to that, that would be an interesting decision. That would be like moving up the pawn so that you can't get backdoor mated, and in which case you would be really far ahead if they had the Herald, but they did not incorporate the Herald into that, so it's null and void. This is good by TSM. Having Braum in top lane does absolutely nothing. There's no reason for High to be top. Okay, looks like he's recalling now. Yeah, and you just leave Tristana. But Tristana shouldn't be the one in top. Tristana should have already been bottom a long time ago. Same with High. Tom Kent should have been in top lane, especially because his teleport and his ulti was up. They should also be keeping Lissandra with the team and using Rek'Sai as the split pusher. Having him use his ultimate as a teleport, that way you can wake up with basically 2.5 teleports in a way. 2.5 in the sense because Rek'Sai is a lot more flexible and a lot more mobile because I'm counting his tunnels as half a teleport as long as he uses them correctly. One thing I am not doing this game, though, is I'm not paying attention to the items nearly as much as I need to. I do like that. Okay, well, I don't like the okay, no, never mind. Okay, Bjergsen's Rylai's is actually fine. I don't like how Nidalee doesn't have tier 2 boots yet, though. And I don't like how Rek'Sai doesn't either. I think that that's poor. Alright. Okay, now see, this is the stuff I was talking about, okay? TSM doesn't care about top lane. Cloud9 cares about bot lane. So this is a bad decision by TSM. I don't even care if they get the inhibitor. It does not mean as much. No, you can trade inhibitors. What you get though? What? What is... Are you hitting minions? Double lift? What? Trying to see if a sacrifice for that tower, because you have to understand that Cloud9, this tower is so big. Like, if they can get this, I'm just trying to see if it's worth. Let top lane. Okay, Tahm Kench can shove that out. Although he doesn't have Sunfire, he's going for Deadman's. Not that it's bad, it's just something to consider. Have Corki shove out that lane. Have Corki blitz right now to here and shove this. And then have Corki try to kill off all vision control. Because if you do this, now what is this? This is going to be second dragon for TSM, so that doesn't even matter because it only really helps with sieging this because the second dragon doesn't actually matter for sieging these two towers. It's completely irrelevant. I think Cloud9 needs to sacrifice someone to get this tower because of how big it is. Because TSM's only option is to try to blitz Baron, but I think that you can control the lanes to prevent a Baron attempt. Because a 4v5 is still a little bit risky, even if Lissandra has teleport. So I think that would have been fine. I think if you just sacrifice one person, is that even possible? I don't know if that's possible. I would need bigger a view of the screen. If they all go down, let's talk about an Armageddon scenario. Let's say that all three of them go down for that tower. What is the death timers going to be at? Please, one person die. Oh my god. One person die, let me see. 28 seconds. 28 seconds, given the chase, there's not going to be a clear call to immediately go to Baron. Corki already has the mid shoved in. Top lane is shoving in for TSM, but that's irrelevant unless they choose to have Lissandra teleport to it. But it doesn't make any sense because the distance from where TSM's other teammates are means that Lissandra can't capitalize on the teleport, and she's not a champion that would benefit from it. So given that, they have to run through mid where Corki already has the minions in his control. Given that Tristana can turn around, Nidalee can turn around, Tahm Kench can turn around, Tahm Kench has ultimate, which means he can close a gap a lot faster than he normally should be able to. So Rek'Sai's utility goes away there, and so does Lissandra's teleport, which means that I don't think the 28-second death timer is actually enough. In which case, I think it would have... Now, in an Armageddon scenario... where you don't teleport in Tahm Kench and it's just Corki and Kench, and you get that tower, can Corki delay the Baron long enough? I don't think he can. However, he can attack Baron without attacking Baron, in the sense that they will gain control of Baron and they can trade Dragon for Baron, because Tahm Kench and Corki can easily get Dragon while TSM is getting Baron, and if that happens, TSM's only opening with Baron is going to be mid lane, but they don't have any minions in mid lane because you attack Baron without attacking Baron. And then they can't make any use of top lane because by that time everyone's back up and you secured the dragon, which means that the only option for TSM at that point is a straight up engagement in mid because top is useless and their bot lane is screwed. I think that would be fine. So I think that tower for Baron is worth, even in an Armageddon scenario, in the sense that they all go down. And when I say I think, I mean I'm 90% sure. Like I'm 90. I would need to be able to move my cursor and look at the map, and I would need more information on their gold values, on their champions, and how much money they're piling. But I'm 90% sure that's the correct move. I'm 100% sure that Lissandra moving past that inhibitor turret was the bad move. So that's I'm just throwing that out there. And then also, we're assuming that TSM makes the instant call. We're assuming that their shot call is it's without hesitation, Baron. That's what we're assuming. There's always the chance that they just say dragon, and that's even worse for TSM because we already talked about how it doesn't benefit them at all. And then they would have so much pressure. Because they would get 2 towers for Baron, so the gold advantage from it would be negated. And then I don't think that there's enough utility for Baron buff at this point in the game, given how early it is, you know, relative to the champion's items, that the Baron buff would actually be worth it, with no other real neutral objective or terrain to really contest. So, I don't know. I mean, this is where comms and stuff really play a part, and where you need to really listen to it to know what's going on. And now they shove them out, and they go for Baron, which doesn't make any sense, because you know that Lissandra has teleport. So this is a complete, like, what are you doing? Because all that you need to do is, like, you need to play that song, Lean On Me, you know? I don't know who sings that, but... Lean on me when you're not... Alright, anyways, we're not gonna sing. But, prioritizing Baron over the dragon doesn't really make any sense. Because given these team comps, Cloud9 does actually benefit from the third dragon a lot. And I don't know what they're doing. This is where all LCS teams begin to fall apart, is the ultra late game. Now, this is not an ultra late game. However, okay, it is it's basically a late game came early. That's exactly what's happening. Do they get okay? They got the inhibitor again. This isn't even necessarily okay. Get that tower. Oh my god. Well, that could have happened earlier. Imagine if they... Well, Jesus. That might have even been the Nexus Tower, and then if this was happening, this would be... What am I watching right now? Okay, well... So anyways, like I was saying, this is the point where all teams in Western regions begin to fall apart. And it's not necessarily the players' fault. It's not because the players don't know or are incapable of knowing what is supposed to happen. It's just that usually this is not practiced in the West. So... In chess, or in some other games, it's very nice to go backwards to forwards. Why you would recall like that, I don't... Well, I guess that's sort of like a coin flip that maybe ends up being okay like 60% of the time. What am I watching right now? Is this it? Is this game? This is really unfortunate. But anyways, it was a late game came early, which does have some unique conditions on it, and I think it can be really interesting. Just... Flash and auto. Okay. So anyways, that's it. So there was huge macro decisions being, you know, that we basically touched on. And also a late game coming early doesn't mean that it changes too much. What it does change, however, is that instead of being able to fight a huge war with swords, you instead have to do so with knives. So there is a little bit of a difference, but the approach is going to be extremely similar. But because the approach is similar, the time duration is going to be different. So like if that's happening at 40 minutes, then, you know, some of the things that we talked about, like Corki and stuff being able to just get Dragon, isn't necessarily true. Because at that point, TSM can easily just have one member go to Dragon to sort of like throw you off it, or 2 members even go to Dragon, and 3 people can blitz Baron. So the time duration is going to be completely different, and then also the champion's movement speeds across the map, and what also the minions mean for certain lanes is going to change. So there's some variables that change, but the decision making is usually going to be very similar in thought. And so that is it for what's going on.